3 8-pin power connections. That's a lot. This is perfect. This is just what I would want with my graphics card. Are you bored about hearing all about RTX graphics cards? Because we're going to do it again in this video, because we have here the RTX 3080 Gaming X Trio. And I was really excited actually to get hold of this one, because of all the graphics cards out there, for me anyway, it's always the ROG Strix and the Gaming X Trio that get me the most excited, if you like. Problem is, these are always the most expensive ones. So what we're going to do in this video is compare it to the 3080 Tough that we have here in terms of performance, clock speeds and design to see whether you should buy the Gaming X Trio or not, or maybe look at something else. We have our very special editor's note that I always read and never discard. So let's take this out of the packaging, and oh yes, that is a very tasty bit of kit. Remember when they used to make all of their graphics cards red and people didn't want red? Well, you asked for black. Here it is. This is almost like a nice gunmetal-y grey on certain accents of it, but most of it is very much a jet black card. It's big, but it's actually not the biggest card I've ever seen before, but the thing that really does stand out are these power connections on the top. We have 3 8-pin power connections. That's a lot, and this is one of those cards that I think a 750 watt power supply might not be enough. So the idea really is that you'd be able to put this in your system and then it will automatically overclock or boost itself to get the most out of the power that you can feed it, while having a cooling solution that can keep all of the thermals under check. So design-wise, it certainly looks the part. It's got a back plate as well on the back. I imagine we'll see a little bit of GPU sag, but to counteract that, you do actually get this little plate in the box as well. So if you are finding that you're having this problem, then you can install this to prop everything up. Never brush your teeth just before a video. No one can smell me, and all that happens is it gets bunged up as you're talking too much. It's horrible. It just gets stuck in your throat. Elsewhere on the cards, we have our HDMI and then 3 display ports. And this is a little bit of a missed opportunity actually, I think, because if we compare it to the Tough card, we actually have an extra HDMI on this. So you're paying more money for one less HDMI port, which is a little bit of a shame. And then on the top, you have this really bright RGB light bar, which looks really clean actually. I've seen pictures of the Strix cards. I haven't got them in yet, but I'm not so sure whether the Strix card really does look the part. So let's put this in our system. Actually, before we do that, here's a quick comparison of the two cards side by side. Here is the Tough. This is around about £100 cheaper, has one extra HDMI port, but less RGB features, and I imagine less cooling performance, but we will be testing that. The Gaming X is ever so slightly longer, but not by much. You just need to be really careful when it comes to the power connections, because remember, this takes 3 8-pin, whereas this is 2 8-pin. It didn't actually say on the box what power supply it needed, and I just wanted to check. So I've gone onto the website and it says recommended power supply to be decided. I imagine you get away with a 750, but if you're buying one, 850 is what I would recommend. It doesn't use power, it runs on, I don't know, trying to think of something funny, runs on dreams. The case that we're using is Cooler Master's TD500. It's all set up pretty much stock. It's actually, all of the fans are configured to come on when the CPU gets hot, which is what most people will have their system set up for. It's not what I would recommend, but I'm trying to keep this as real world as possible. That's looking pretty smart actually, I have to say. I won't be looking at this directly head to head with the Founders Edition, plainly because I've already done that in my Tough video. So if you want to see how the Founders Edition performs when it comes to noise levels and clock speeds, then you can open that either in a separate tab, have that side by side, or you can watch that before or after this video to get a better idea of how that performs. It is of course worth noting that just because you've got more power connections on your card, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be using more power. It means you can use more power. This should automatically optimize itself to use the amount of power that's going to get the most amount of performance, but because you have that extra 8-pin there, you can overclock it further than you would a card that didn't have all of those power connections. In theory, as long as you have the cooling potential, but more on that in a bit. I mean, the cynic in me would say that it's a bit safe. There's not really anything overly garish about this. I mean, if you want to go and look at Palette's card, that's pretty out there. We've got their logo on the top, says GeForce RTX, little RGB on the side, but otherwise not really anything that, I don't know, is out of the ordinary. No, it's nice. It looks good. Let's actually start some games up though. And here we have the game I'm playing at the moment, Horizon Zero Dawn. Love this on PlayStation, and it is of course even better on PC. Here we have it at max settings 4K, and we're getting around about 65 frames a second or so. So there's definitely room for improvement. But this is very much a 4K 60 GPU, no problem. This is pretty much worst case scenario. It's only Metro that I've seen get a slightly lower frame rate than this at 4K. The good news is that we're seeing a decent boost upon the Founders Edition. We're getting around about 100 megahertz more. Been running this for around about 10 minutes now, and we're getting sustained 1950, maybe slightly more, slightly less. But in terms of versus the Tough Card, which remember is £100 cheaper, more or less, there's not really much in the way of difference, so I would be very surprised if you see any significant frame rate difference between the two. They both were sitting around about 1950 megahertz. But of course that's not the only reason you pick a certain graphics card. You maybe prefer the design of one, but it's also about thermals and acoustics, and I'm really impressed with this so far. The pitch of the noise that it's making is very good. Quite often you'll find that graphics cards can be a little bit whiny, the Founders Edition especially, and it does have a little bit of coil whine. This is perfect. This is just what I would want with my graphics card. I forgot about this camera actually. I was talking to that one for too long. He's my best friend. You know what? Actually, I am really impressed with this because there's not really a big difference with the side panel on versus off in terms of noise, in terms of temperatures. The fan speed may have ramped up ever so slightly, but this is one of the benefits of having such a big cooling solution. It doesn't really need to. So now that we've just hit 80 degrees, this will come on a little bit just to keep it in check. But if you're running this in a more normal scenario with those front fans on, you're never going to hear this graphics card, which, bearing in mind the amount of power it can use, is very, very impressive. Well done, MSI. Having a closer look under the hood with GPU-Z, you can see that while our clock speeds are pretty sustained, nothing really has changed there. Temperature is at 81 degrees, but again, fan speed is not actually that high. It's going to keep itself at around about 80, that is by design. But looking at the power usage, interestingly, this is also operating in the same sort of field and same realm as the Tough Card. So I've seen around about 335 watts being the peak from the whole thing, which is not too bad. There you go, 340. So it is using ever so slightly more power, but you're not making full use of the card. Our final test is just to open up Control, have a little look at the ray tracing. If you haven't tried it, by the way, it looks great. It didn't used to make sense with the old 20 series cards really, because you were trading performance, and you still are a little bit, but it's worth turning on now. Here we have ray tracing and DLSS, so we're stressing out the GPU as much as we possibly can, and we're using, what's this, around about 330 watts, sometimes 340. So I was expecting this to maybe use a little bit more power in this sort of game, but I guess not. This does strike me as a very good card, and of all of the ones I've tested, it is my favorite. So if I was to take one, put it in my system, I would rather have this than both the Tough and the Founders Edition. But of course, it's not really that simple, because this is around about £100 more expensive. My favorite thing about it is how quiet it is. This doesn't have a performance or quiet mode slider like the Tough Card does, but to my ears, this does seem slightly quieter than the Tough Card, but there's really not that much in it. I think it's fair to say that this is going to cater to two different audiences. This is for someone that does just want to buy the best graphics card, 3080 that is, and then just drop it in and everything will work. Bearing in mind the difference in price between the 3080 and the 3090, I wouldn't blame you for doing that. But this is also very much for the people that do want to use overclocking tools to really get the most out of this, because if you do have a good cooling solution, you're actually going to be able to get not only a lot out of this card, but I think you're going to be able to do so without it causing an absolute racket as well. It's impressive. I think if you're in any of these camps, then the Gaming X makes the total amount of sense. But if you're purely looking for the best value 3080, then at the moment that would just be the standard non-overclocked Tough Card. That's the one I would recommend to most people. But if you're willing to spend that a little bit extra, then the Gaming X does come highly recommended. And as I say, at the moment, it's the one that I think is my favorite. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts. If you want to see the full overclocking video where we push this card as far as it will go with the new software that's out from Nvidia, get subscribed. That is coming very, very soon. If you want to see the full build, that is in the end screen. Thank you so much for checking out though. Get subscribed for more videos like this. It really helps out. and I'll see you in the next one.